Okay, well, good afternoon. It's good to be in this virtual space with everybody again. This is a State of the City event for the City of Ocean Shores, sponsored by the Ocean Shores Branch, which is a division of Greater Grays Harbor, Inc. So if you have some curiosity about what the Ocean Shores Branch is, it is an organization of the business community within the Ocean Shores area. And one of the things we like to do is make sure that we can connect the community to their local government. Last fall, you met us in person, thank you, at the candidate forum for City Council. And I've also been out there to present on Greater Grays Harbor's work associated with contractual agreements with the city. Today, we're bringing you a State of the City. We did this last spring, I believe, as well, and we really enjoyed doing it. Just for a matter of housekeeping, this is on the Zoom webinar platform, so we can't see you. We ask that you use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You can submit a question. The public won't be able to see it, but as the questions come in, if they're organically answered within the course of the presentations, then I will move it to public so everybody can see it. If it's not organically answered, I will moderate a Q&A in the later part of the program. The chat theoretically should be disabled. I ask that you not function in it. You just create another place for me to monitor and stay on top of things. And if I didn't already mention, raising your hand feature isn't as conducive. Again, we just like the Q&A. And so I should probably introduce myself as well. You guys maybe don't know who I am. I see so many people through the virtual world. I don't know who I have and haven't met. I'm Lynnette Buffington. I'm the CEO of Greater Grays Harbor. I've been in this role since July of 2020, and haven't met as many people as I'd like to, and I hope that changes here in the next month. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mayor Jon Martin and City Manager. Are you City Administrator, Scott? City Manager?
Administrator.
City Administrator, excuse me, Scott Andersen, and they have the floor today. Again, I will be in the background. So my camera will be off, so you won't be able to see me, but I will be in the background assisting with administration of Q&A and technical issues folks might be having. Jon or Scott, is there anything else you want me to share with folks before I give you the floor?
No, I think we're good.
All right, thank you. And thanks to everybody again that is here today. As I mentioned at the top, people may have not registered and they want to register and registration is closed. You can send them your link. If they're trying to find it in their junk mail, just go ahead and send them their link. There's no uniqueness to that. So open the door, let everybody in. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You know, my preference is always to be in person, but as we were putting this together, we decided this would be the easiest way to go. So we're going to go through some things that we're working on, kind of where we are from the city's point of view, but it's going to be a little bit different than I guess we'd normally be because I've only been mayor for 3 months. So a lot of things that are in the past are things that we're working on in the future, and I've got Scott Andersen. He's our city administrator. And kind of my philosophy is that, you know, Scott speaks for me as well as I think I speak for Scott at times, that we work together in tandem, moving things forward. So Scott probably has a lot more view of the day-to-day operations of what's going on. And that's why I think it's important that typically that when I have the meetings out there, I bring Scott along because Scott can always keep me on the right track and also probably has more information than I do as far as exactly where we are. So I'm going to just toss it to Scott if you've got any opening thoughts.
No, well, hi everyone. I saw most of the people are people I'm familiar with, but this, for those that aren't, just about the city of Ocean Shores very briefly. We have 10 full functioning departments in the city and then 2 sub-departments. And it's sort of my job to kind of track and manage, with a few exceptions, those departments and make sure that they're moving forward. We've got almost 100 employees within the city. We're going to probably pass that number at 100 some point this year. And obviously we're growing, the city's growing just to try to keep up with the community. We've got a lot of record-setting numbers I'll let the mayor talk about in terms of our home development, in terms of tourism and things that we're doing, but I'll also then circle back and I'll discuss some of the larger projects that we're working on at the end, because we do have a number of large public works projects that we're addressing at this time. And at the end, I'll kind of clarify where we are with all of those. But in the meantime, I'll hand it back over to the mayor.
Thanks, Scott. Well, as you may or may not know, that I took over as mayor. I was appointed by the city council towards the end of November. And during that time, we've had snow, flooding, COVID, tsunami warning, and of course, we have labor issues. So definitely in the very short period of time, I think I'm getting a lot of what a real mayor has to do with every day. And Scott's done a great job. You know, one of the biggest challenges that we have as a city is just this challenge of money and resources, and that's time and personnel. There's a lot of big things that we need to be working on within the city, and it's how to effectively utilize the resources that we do have, as well as with the funding to move forward. You know, one of my biggest goals is to make Ocean Shores a place that people want to come to live, visit, and work. And that's going to be different probably for everyone and kind of what that vision needs to be. But I think with a combination of in working with the citizens, working with our council, and as well as working with our staff, and then getting feedback from the people that come and visit, I think it will make us as a city a better place. But you know, there's just a lot of things that we need to work together. So, you know, one of the things that I'm trying to do as the mayor is to really focus on a balance of what we're doing. And part of it, in order to get that balance, is open communication. I think that if you've been around in Ocean Shores, you've seen that we've been out talking to people, trying to be as transparent as possible, and understanding that there are many views. So for any item, anything that might be becoming for the council, there's probably, I don't know, probably 20, 30 different views. And the key is we've got to take all those things together and put together and come together with a strategy. But again, I think that we are always open to hear what people have to say. Ultimately, we have to make the decision of what we think is the best thing for Ocean Shores. But again, there have been positions that I've had when I've started, but actually when I start listening to people, that, you know, I've moved on that position. My goal is to try to be kind of in that center lane versus too far to the left or too far for the right, and just trying to make the right choices. Communication since day one has been a top priority for me. So if you want to get a hold of me, my email address is jmartin, all one word, that's JMARTIN @osgov.com. If you want to get me by phone, it's 360-289-3099. My goal is to try to get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. And you may get a response back from a city staff person, because there might be something that is an issue that Scott has the answer to, or Public Works has. I'm all about using the people that work for the city and that are the experts. We do city chats the first Wednesday of the month, starting at 4 o'clock at the convention center. And we always try to have some type of a topic, like we're going to do finance in March. Before that, we had our police chief, we've had Public Works, so we'll continue on there. And so we might have a topic, but we're always open for questions. We're here doing State of the City. We are recording this, so we plan to put this up, so if someone wasn't able to attend, they would be able to see this. I've got a mayor's Facebook page, and if you're not a Facebook person, we have basically what we're posting on Facebook as a blog on the city website. We have our city clerk that will do a rundown of what happened at the council. So if you don't want to spend your time at the council meeting, you can get an update of what we're doing at the council. Scott has his own radio report, and I think it's flipping around. I think it's on Wednesday now, right?
Going to be on Wednesdays, and I'll give you an exact day. We're still working that out now that we have had to move it.
So again, we're all about communication, and if there's anything that anyone has any suggestions for us to do a better job on communication, please let us know. Some hard numbers that we have, as Scott said, of our staffing numbers. Right now, we're at 94 employees that are working for the city. And we're in the process of hiring that we are either have hired or getting very close to hire. We've got a new police records clerk, police administrative assistant, new code enforcement officer, and a new police officer. And this really is a big deal because with that police officer accepting, that starts in March, we will be a fully staffed police department, which is a huge thing, especially with everything that's going on. I think it has a lot to do with our police chief and her recruitment activities. We're still looking for a public works director. We did have 2 people apply, just didn't work out for us on that. So we're actually going out and we're going to use an outside recruitment agency to help us see if we can get some candidates. But in the meantime, we have a very talented public works department that's functioning very highly with Scott leading it and Robert Lund supporting him in that. So I don't think that we're going to miss anything as far as what we need to do, but a public works director is something that's very important to us. We have also hiring a maintenance worker number 2. Priority for us is to staff up our fire department, just because we have some really challenges when it comes to healthcare, well, basically emergency care out in Ocean Shores, and in a lot of ways they are our emergency care. But we're kind of at a stalemate right now, working with the hiring. We would like to hire an assistant fire chief, which our union doesn't believe that we should do that. We've got applications out for a firefighter EMS, and we've applied for 3 SAFER grant positions. So that's kind of where from a staffing point, as Scott said, we'll probably be over 100 after we get the hires put in place. Building continues to be on. If you drive through Ocean Shores, you'll see construction. Last year, we had building permits for 239 single-family homes, 1 duplex, and 1 multifamily unit. And on top of that, we had 466 clearing permits. So a lot of activity in Ocean Shores. Sarah Bisson, who is our grant writer, has really been working hard. Last year that she has, from grants, $889,000 worth of grants. That's not counting the SAFER grants or the award that we received for repair of the jetty. So very strong on our advocacy out there getting grant money. Finances remain really strong. Our sales tax were up 24%, hotel and motel taxes up 29%, real estate up 35%, and our general fund is sitting at close to $4 million. And that's even with when we had to pay out the lawsuit that we had to settle with. Convention center traffic is up 7.32. I mean, our traffic counts are up 7.32. The convention center, we have, starting in June, we only have 1 weekend other than Christmas that is an open date. So even with COVID, we've done a pretty good job of filling the open dates that we have there. One of the issues that we are kind of dealing with is water shutoffs. We had at the end of November, $116,000 in back pay or back fees for the water accounts. Since we started the turnoff process, it's dropped down to $86,000. The city council set aside $50,000 for water assistance, which is being handled by CAP. And if you know anyone that has water issues as far as paying for it, the CAP phone number is 360-533-5100. So we put $50,000 aside. So far, we've spent $7,431. And the number, like I said, that we're down from 116,000 120 days down to 86,000. So one of the things that is that has been issues that we're kind of dealing with, and this is where Scott's probably going to put into a little bit more detail where we are, but we had some extensive flooding at the beginning of the year with and of course, one of the issues that Ocean Shores has is that we really don't have a stormwater system per se that you would think in if you had in Seattle, whatever, because everything is basically an open ditch with it. And we also have the Oyhut ditch, which is the area that runs from Oyhut by the high school through kind of the center of town. Which that's been a kind of an ongoing issue. And we kind of we do have a plan. And Scott, do you want to talk about what we're working on the Oyhut ditch and stormwater in general?
Yeah, so with the Oyhut ditch, obviously there's two different issues. One is the backup we see on that culvert at State Route 115 over there by the high school. And that's not city property. That's going to have to be addressed by the Washington State Department of Transportation. We are on a list to have them repair that culvert. But we just don't know how long that process is going to actually take. But I know Commissioner Rains and the county have been active in trying to support the city as well in getting that replaced by WSDOT. But the rest of it from south of that, from that culvert, from south of 115 onward, that is within the city of Ocean Shores in our jurisdiction, and what we also call the Oyhut ditch, and it runs the length of that road down to the Grand Canal. But preliminary permitting has already begun. The lead agency on that is going to be the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. We have to make sure that we comply with their environmental regulations, but we have already moved into the preliminary permitting phase of that. And the next step for the city after that's been cleared, we're going to have to go through the JARPA process. For those of you who are not familiar with the JARPA process, that's the Joint Aquatic Resources Permit Application Process. And that just means that the Corps of Engineers is going to sign off on our project before we move forward on it. The first phase of that will be the removal of aquatic vegetation that's in the ditch. And that's sort of like a first phase of just helping it flow more naturally, removing some of the debris, the trees. And then the second phase, which we hope will be kind of done in conjunction with, broader funding streams that are coming out of Biden's infrastructure bill or some of these ARPA funds that we're looking at, mainly the Biden infrastructure bill's funds, because there's almost $1 billion that are available to replace culverts. The city will look to then replace our own culverts that are in that and expand them and make it a better flowing water system. So that's sort of the plan on that.
And then with the stormwater and the flooding, one of the things that we have really been working with our Public Works department is to identify the areas that we had significant flooding in January. And you probably have seen our Public Works out there digging through some of the ditches as we've had issues where things are filling in. And one of the issues that we currently have is that we don't really have a effective stormwater map of everything that's out there. So John Wagner and his team is working hard. We realize this is a challenge, but this is something that is a focus, and our big focus are the areas that we had significant flooding in the past. And as John keeps reminding me that his number one focus is not to have any water over the roadway. So, I mean, obviously there are some issues that we had where it kind of filled up on some of the ditches, but our big focus is keep it off the waterways, because that obviously creates more. But there's some lowlands that we have, and there's probably some things that we need to look at, especially with growth of what's happening with when people are building, making sure that they have a plan on where that water is supposed to go. So that's where we are from a flooding point of view. One of the requests that we will be bringing forward is doing something with our police station. Our police station is undersized, definitely not in great shape from a building point of view. There's things of the water tank flooding, and I mean, there's just a lot of issues. And it was a modular home or modular building when it was put in there. It wasn't supposed to be there for, I think it's like 30-40 years. So we need to do something. We've got a preliminary draft, but that is, first estimates are about $8 million. So that's a big number. We're still working through that. We've started having conversations with our legislators about funding with that and looking some resources. But you know, we're probably going to be bringing it forward because we need to do something with our police station. And we just need to have a plan with it as we move forward. But again, that's just something on the horizon that we're working on. We talked a little bit about the fire station, you know, that, you know, there definitely is a difference in opinion on staffing and where we need to go as far as the fire station. I believe from a mayor's point of view, adding staff is important, but understanding that it will cost the city money to move forward on that. Right now we have a study that is, I think we're about halfway through on the study. They've got the first phase through, and we should be seeing something probably I think in May, where we'll bring forward of actually what our staffing needs are. But as a rough number that Angie Folkers, our finance director, gives me, is it's about $1.31 per firefighter that in order to staff. So if we were to take it up to the 30, that is the number that has been tossed out there, that's going to be an increase of $15.72 per water bill that we have in Ocean Shores if we were going to do that. And that's just based on the 131, but then if you add in inflation, because most of our unions are tied to CPI, the number could be higher. So we're working through that, but it's probably going to be a lot more conversations that we need. And in reality, one of the challenges we have is that other departments are able to utilize firefighters that just fight fires. I mean, they're just on an engine. In ours, that we're hiring medical certified people that go out there, which costs more, it takes more training, it takes more of a challenge. So understand that there's a challenge for us as a city as we move forward with it. I think I'm optimistic that we can come through with some solutions. I'm about increasing our staffing levels. You know, really the big issue that we have is whether or not the city should have an assistant fire chief, which I think is very important, or not. You know, so I think that we in the union are probably closer than some people think, but we'll see how that goes. I really want to, you know, it's important for me that Ocean Shores is a place that one that people want to live and work at. And there's some things that are challenges, and one of the challenges that we sat down with the school district yesterday, and we talked about the challenge of just daycare and what we need to do with there. So we're hoping that we can come up with some type of a partnership with as far as daycare, just because that would definitely help the people that work for Ocean Shores from the city point of view, as well as issues that we have within the people that live here from a daycare point of view. So we've got some really big projects going. You know, the biggest project that we're still working through the Corps of Engineers is fixing the jetty. We've received over, the grant is over $11 million, the potential of more than that to fix it. Ultimately, what that looks like, time frame, I don't have those numbers yet, but we're still working through that. We are currently in the process, and this is where you possibly could help us out, getting letters of support of seeking funding from the University of Washington Sea Grant program to help us on figuring out a look for the downtown of Point Brown. So a letter of support would be a great help. And I think that'll help us to start putting together of where we want to go. And I know there's been a lot of studies in the past, but this is one that I think that we can actually get done. We've got our comp plan that was done. Our next phase that the council is going to be looking at is residential building standards. So I think that we've got some momentum going forward. But again, I think that we need some outside resources. And along with that, I've asked them to give me an estimate of what it would cost if they would give us a study on what our housing needs for our city is, to make sure that we have a balanced approach to our housing. We have the fire break, and we've just started on phase 2. So Scott, do you want to go over that?
Yeah, sure. So with the fire break, actually phase two, the physical work is supposed to start on Monday, and it'll start down at the Polynesian Hotel. The initial work that we're going to be conducting over the next couple of weeks will be the wetland buffer area. So this will all be buffer. Hope to have it done within 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll revisit it at the end of August, September to do the fire break work in the wetlands themselves. Unfortunately, it just can't be done when it's raining, when there's cold. We need as dry a climate to work in as possible. The city will also be recutting at that time the work that was done in the year prior. But this will complete the entire Ocean Shores fire break. It will be done by September, and we'll have that 50-foot buffer behind all the hotels, which is something that we've been trying to move forward on for some 20 years, and it's finally come to fruition.
Yep. And then one project that I'm very excited about that we're finally going to get moving on, and that's the High Dune Trails. So Scott, where are we on that?
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, the State Environmental Policy Act process, which is the SEPA process, that's already been completed. So that's been finalized. The Department of Public Works is now engaged in, this is like an alphabet soup, but they're on the National Environmental Policy Analysis, which is the NEPA, and that's for the part of the right-of-way phase. And the right-of-way phase, for people who just aren't familiar with that, is to make sure that the city has jurisdiction, make sure there's no, also that there's no archaeological finds that might hinder what it is we're doing, and that we have all of the proper permitting in place before we begin work on it. There's going to be a meeting actually this week at the Best Western to discuss how the trail is going to go through their property. We hope to have in March preliminary alignment map for what the trail should look like. That should be ready by mid-March, so people can see that, and obviously we'll bring that to council. And the goal is actually to go out for bid for the trail itself, for not the design, but the actual construction work on the trail bid around 2022, so long as there are no archaeological or endangered species holds up. We don't anticipate that, but until the paperwork is signed, we can't guarantee it.
And another project or an item that is coming forward, and I know in some towns that it would seem like, why are you guys even talking about it? But in Ocean Shores, you know, there's some things that are going to make a big difference and probably a start of something bigger, and that is putting in a crosswalk on Point Brown. So Scott, you know, can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So the city right now, we're at a stage where we're waiting for the Transportation Improvement Board, the TBIME, to sign a contract with the city so they can transfer that $200,000 or so that they owe us, or that they'd offered to give to us for the funding to build that, so we can sign the professional services agreement. The crosswalks are right now at this time scheduled to be next to Playtime Family Fun, south of Shoal Street. The design is going to require a survey, and that survey is going to be completed by SCJ Alliance. And ideally, like a lot of our other projects, this entire process will be completed by the end of summer. We'll have those crosswalks done. The only obstacle that really remains is for the properties adjacent to that on both sides of the street to grant us the legal authority to do that. But once we have that design from SCJ, we'll also bring that to council so people can see what those crosswalks are going to look like.
And what is important about the crosswalk is it's a start. The council is the one that brought it forward, had the city start working on it, and with the crosswalks, and I'm hoping with the combination of the C grant that we would get, then we can start working on sidewalks. There's a lot of process we need to do as far as getting funding and working through what that's going to be, you know, but again, it's a start, and anything that in Ocean Shores, it takes a while for us to get there, especially working through the government. But I think that as we start putting things together, it will move us into where we want to go. The radio tower, one of the things that we have received funding from the state legislature on approving our radio tower. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, the radio board came up with the suggestion of possibly having a radio tower outside of Ocean Shores that gives us actually better coverage, and have applied for a higher wattage. So we're waiting on the process of where we are with the whether or not we get the FCC license for higher wattage, and then we'll move forward on that. Habitability is something that's very important to me, that we've been out. We've done our first abatement. We've had code enforcement, and we're hiring a second code enforcement to start working on what our regulations are and having the conversation. Now, what happens is once we start doing the documentation, that it is a long process, so there's not something that happens like immediately when we do it. Sean Beebe has done a great job, but it's a process to go through, but we're working through and setting up standards, as well as that's why we're going to start working on residential building standards. I don't know if you've been down Dolphin, but Dolphin is not a truck route, in case anyone's confused. And so we did put up truck route, no truck signs on Dolphin, just to make sure that we keep them on Point Brown as the main one. But it's little things like that, I think, make a big difference in our city. Where we're working on enforcing codes, standards, and just working through the process. And, I really do appreciate everyone that works for Ocean Shores and all the work that they do, as well as the citizens. And again, my view as being mayor, it's important for us to be collaborative, working together, as well as communication. The truck route, one of the things besides the signs put up there that I think went extremely well is that our police officers contacted the local businesses that have the big trucks and talked to them about where the truck route is. And they were very appreciative of that. We were able to make some changes without ticketing people, and actually got a better result with that. And then one of the things that is also coming up for us is the council will start working on where we're going to direct our money on the American Rescue Act. And that's going to be a big topic for our council to make the decisions. I think they're going to have some work study sessions to that, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with that. So those are kind of the big things of what's going on in Ocean Shores. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's probably even more stuff that that we're working on that we haven't been able to bring forward, because we still have things that we're going to be working on the fresh waterways, as well as working on preservations of our road. And then the most important thing is to continue to keep our city strong financially, and making sure that we don't make any big mistakes where we move the city where we just can't afford to do things. So again, I count on Scott. I count on our finance director. I mean, there's just a lot of staff that I count on to make those decisions. Scott, would you like to add anything more?
No, just the other two public works projects. I mean, you mentioned the jetty one, but the two that are really consuming public works, obviously the Tsunami Tower. We saw that the bond did not pass, or the levy did not pass for the school district. And that puts us in a slightly different situation. If we're going to have a tsunami evacuation structure, it's going to have to be, in the short run at least, for the next few years, that Tsunami Tower. We have entered the preliminary structural engineering design phase. We're going to be bringing that part to council to contract with a firm called Deegan Kolb to design that. And the conceptual design right now is remaining the same. It's going to be built for about 800 people, safe refuge of 50 feet above the ground, and it will be located next to the elementary school, which was always the plan for that. And the other is that the Public Works Department is working on an erosion study. This is something we really need in the city. I mean, anyone who looks at the maps for the city, from the way that the dunes have changed and that erosion has changed around not so much even the jetty area, but around the Oyhut Bay and the marina. I mean, it's enormous changes over the last few years. Even Damon Point, when you walk out there and look at what it looked like 15, 20 years ago, it's an extremely different island than it is today. And we solicited bids that were aimed to conduct a coastal erosion study, to kind of build off the analysis of previous work, understand the directions things are flowing in. And the firm of Mott McDonald LLC won that bid, and that'll be brought also to council for confirmation. So obviously our public works, at a time when we don't have an acting public works director, has been extremely busy. Robert Lund has been keeping that extremely efficient and well run, but it also goes out to the department heads that run our various departments down there, and that includes our street department with John Wagner. It includes our wastewater treatment plant, and it includes our water processing plant. So those teams are doing a really great job of keeping the city running in the absence of a public works director, and we hope to get that filled as soon as possible. But that's really what I have for you.
Okay, and I guess we got some questions, so I will just pop them up. So Lynnette, do you want me just to read the question, or?
Sure, I could do a quick summary. There's
Sure.
definite appreciation for passing a noise ordinance. I don't know how recently you did that. It sounds like there's still noise violations, people tearing through neighborhoods with their stereo blaring, and public safety concern on probably pedestrian versus vehicle. And then some code enforcement, but I'm also curious, I want to add on to this question a little bit of the balancing act between the short-term rental community and your residents, if there's anything going on in that area. It's a big deal for communities like yours.
Right. Well, the first one, the noise ordinance, I'm glad that the council passed that also, because it just is another tool for our police officers to deal with. That they are with our full staffing, that I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, but we are definitely seeing an increase of tickets being issued from people from speeding. I don't know if there's anything about blaring music when they go there, but one of the things that the police will always tell me, or code enforcement, is they just need to see it before it happens. But we are putting emphasis on areas such as Duck Lake for just some speeding, and we've got our radar trailer as we're moving around to put it there. So again, there's an emphasis that we're trying to improve on that. The short-term rentals, that's a really that's a hot topic, when it comes up there. So that's one thing that I think that and extended camping are two things that people either they have an opinion one way or the other. We haven't done anything on overnight rentals other than what is already allowed. Personally, I think one of the things that we as a city need to take a look at is I'm not saying to expand overnight rentals, but I think that we need to look at what our overnight rentals regulations are, because I think they're very outdated, and I think there's things that we need to just take a look at that, and that might be something that the Planning Commission needs to look at moving forward. And I don't know, I'm thinking that if we were to do anything with overnight rentals, if we were going to expand that would probably go to the vote of the people. There were 2 advisory votes prior, and they both went down. And I know, just looking at what other similar type of towns of ours, that when the debate on overnight rentals come up, it's a pretty hot topic.
Yeah.
So I think before we were to do anything, it would be we'd have a lot of conversation before we did anything.
Yeah, and that affects workforce housing as well. I mean, it's already in short supply, and then the minute you start allowing overnight rentals, if you were to allow it in our zones, then suddenly it's more profitable to rent it out on short-term rentals than it is to rent. So there's just a whole number of factors that have to be considered before changes.
Yeah, it's quite complicated of an issue, and there's always some sort of ripple effect to whatever decision pathway you go down, for sure.
Going back to what the mayor was saying, just really briefly on that noise ordinance, though, because this is the opposite. This really was sort of a simple fix, like in just classic small town policing, as it were. As if I were playing my stereo at 3 o'clock in the morning really loud and keeping my neighbors awake with that noise. Prior to that noise ordinance, the police really couldn't do anything. They could come up and ask me to turn it down, and if I said, I just don't really feel like it, they were stuck because there was nothing on the books. And at least this way now they have the ability to issue a civil infraction, and they can fine me for doing that. And of course, the approach of the police is always just to ask people nicely, please, keep that down. We're not here to write tickets for those type of infractions. And that's not what the police goal is, but they do have to have something that backs them up in the event that someone just says no. And so that's the idea, to get that on the book. So now we've given them the tool that they need to address that issue. If it's like systemic from a certain property, or if some properties just really taking advantage of it. Of course, it's harder if people are, playing their car stereos, and you have to be at the right place, right time.
Right.
But it's very frustrating to be a law enforcement officer, have your neighbors complaining, and saying, look, this person's just blaring music. It's not an appropriate time to be doing it, or they're being really loud. And the police say, well, we can't do anything about it. So now they can.
Right. And it probably helps mitigate any friction between visitors and full-time residents as well.
Yep.
It's a tool to mitigate that. There was another question on public safety. There was a tentative agreement to use the radio tower for E911, and the tower was unfit to add to, but if there were a tower built outside of Ocean Shores proper, I guess, would that affect the E911 antenna? Excuse me.
Well, okay, so clarification that we are looking at putting our antenna on a cell tower out at Pacific Beach. That would be a temporary fix, and then at the meantime, then we would look at to see an option of rebuilding our tower and figuring out where that would be the best place to put. And when we put that in there, that we do believe that we could actually rent time out. I mean, we could rent to either E911 or another cell group or whatever, especially with our understanding on our initial conversation with the cell providers out there. 5G is a ways away for being out here. And if we had an effective tower that people could put into Ocean Shores, we probably could do that. But our first step is that we've lined up a place that we can actually put our tower, or not our tower, but our signal on a tower to broadcast back into Ocean Shores. The vision is that then we would go and build a new tower and eventually move ours over, so we're not renting to do it, and then we could rent out there. So my vision would not be that we're going to build our own tower outside of Ocean Shores. It would be inside Ocean Shores, and then the hope is that we could rent space on that to other groups that would possibly end up paying for the tower, is what our hope is.
Thank you. So we still have there's room for questions. We still have about, I'd say 10 minutes or so. So we encourage folks to drop questions in the Q&A. I wanted to bring up a couple things that we're doing in Ocean Shores that the audience may be interested in and the city's engaged with us on. We have the Ocean Shores Insider. So there's a monthly newsletter about Ocean Shores that Greater Grace Harbor puts together, and it's distributed to our entire distribution list. What we enjoy about that is a couple of things. Is one, we have information from the city that's relevant to business and residents. We also like to feature a member business in an article, and then we share upcoming events that are happening in Ocean Shores. And the great thing about it, as I mentioned earlier, is it goes out to people beyond Ocean Shores. So it's going out to anybody that's interested that has signed up for our newsletters. If you've never signed up for our newsletters, you can go to graceharbor.org, and at the very bottom of the page, there's a widget, and you can complete it, and you will be in our distribution list. So you'll get the Harbor Insider and the Shores Insider. And I want to talk about that calendar, because Ocean Shores is full of events that some are broadly known outside of the community, and some are some best kept secrets. And that is a place that anybody in the community can post an event. And then it takes a little bit of time for us to approve it. If you have an event tomorrow and you post it tonight at 10 p.m., we're not going to get it done in time. But if you give us the time, if you're a festival, a multi-day event, something like that, you populate our calendar, and it's going to hit a public calendar space. It's going to give you a web-based presence and hopefully improve your searches as well, your visibility in searches. So we encourage folks to do that. And if you're a member, I know a lot of folks have jobs that need to be filled. We don't have enough people to fill all the jobs our county, our state, or our country even needs right now, but we do have people that are interested in working. And if you have a job to post and you're a member, and if you're the city, or if you're a restaurant, a hotelier, a retailer, if you're a member of Greater Grace Harbor, you can post your jobs for free. And again, it goes to our Facebook page and our social media. So more visibility, more eyes on it, and hopefully that's something that's really helpful. So I wanted to bring up some of those tools that the city has invested in Greater Grace Harbor, so they have access to that, and as do many members of the community as well. Okay, we still have some open questions. We have the open board for questions. You know, I've interfaced with you guys a lot. The fire break, though I had ditch, the crosswalk. Those are ones that I hear quite a bit. When you're thinking about the future of Ocean Shores and what you hope to accomplish in your term, Mayor Martin, are there some big things beyond those three? I know those are big enough. I'm not saying that you're going to get those done in the next 90, but are there some bigger dreams and aspirations, you'd want to talk about?
Well, I would say one of my biggest dreams and aspiration is for the city of Ocean Shores to work together. That I think that, since I've been in Ocean Shores, and I've been there, I think I'm on 13 going on 14 years, there's always been a big divide, and I think that people move to Ocean Shores because they really want to move to Ocean Shores. It's a great place to live. But sometimes we get caught up in, I guess, disagreements. And I think, and I just want to be the mayor where we're open to hear all sides, and that for us to be as transparent as possible, so if there's challenges that we can't do it because we don't have money or whatever it's going to be, for us to be open. And I charge my staff, to be open too. I mean, I think that they've been out there answering questions. We put back into, I've got actually a live person that answers the city phone, puts them where they need to go. It used to all go into voicemail. So hopefully we can do that. But so my number one thing is, can we kind of all just get along and work and be respectful to each other and talk about what the difference is, understanding that we will not always agree. And we all will have different views. But one of the things that I think is important for me is to at least explain to somebody of why I think the way that I think. It doesn't mean that I'm always right. But again, I'm always listening. Aspirationally, what I would love to see is if we could do something with Point Brown and we have sidewalks, that to me, it's a little bit frustrating that we have such a beautiful city, and when people come to Ocean Shores, what they want to do is park their car and get out and walk the beach. But if you go through our downtown core, we're just not a walkable city. And I think there's some things that we could do, as well as I think there's a great opportunity for us to look at either bike lanes, throughout the city, so people that are coming out there and they can get exercise and things like that. I think there's some things that we can do as a city that may be affordable, and just thinking a little bit different, because I really think that we are the best place in the state of Washington to go if you want to go to the beach. But there's a lot of things that we've got that we just need to work on. But it's only going to be as if we can all work together. Sometimes I think that things don't happen in Ocean Shores is because there's a lot of questions, and the city hasn't done a good job of explaining whatever we're going to do. And in government, it's really easy not to do anything, because it doesn't cost any money to do nothing, but that's not the right way to do it. So I'm all about meeting with whoever I need to meet with, whatever group that needs to be, and see if we can come up with something that we can actually get done.
Great. You talked about sidewalks in Point Brown. Is there, and excuse my ignorance on all the street names and things like that in Ocean Shores, is there any discussion of getting sidewalks around Duck Lake Drive, Quinault, Ocean Shores Boulevard?
No. I mean that, and I know exactly what people are saying, because I know that there are some streets that I would love to walk my dog on. But it is just not safe, and there's just no way to get off there. And that's something that we probably should look at overall, but there's a huge cost to that and how to get there. But again, it kind of goes back to just what I said about a walkable city. And there's certain areas, and Duck Lake would be a great example that I don't know if I would feel safe, walking down those roads. So it's something that we should look at. But again, that's probably down the list, just because we've got to at least figure out if there's anything we can do on Point Brown.
Great, thank you. There's a question about the growth of the community and maybe what I've characterized as a changing profile. You've had predominantly retirees, that you've been a draw for retirees, but now through, I guess, the miracle of COVID's impact on how we work and where we work, you've drawn a lot of folks that are, the Great American Road Trip is back, right? So people are driving out to the coast again. The second part of it is people are identifying they don't need to live in a metropolitan area, so they're able to live where they, as long as they can work from whatever back room, corner, kitchen table, whatever it is, they can live wherever they want. So they're moving out there. You've seen this huge growth in build permits. I mean, you beat 2020, you beat 2021, beat 2020, but these record number, right? So as the profile starts to change, are you rolling with the profile change? Are you identifying some of those frictions, like the noise ordinance that you probably identified a while ago? What's the approach to that profile change?
Well, the biggest profile change is being that as we get people that move in here, they're coming, say, from Seattle or Portland, and they are going from a house they're selling, and they're buying a house full price that may be at $300,000 in Ocean Shores, but it's driving the cost of people who live in Ocean Shores. So there's a whole group that's kind of being left behind because of the values there. I don't have a solution. It's something that we're looking at because it is a balance of everybody to do it. But it is a concern of where we're going to go, because we have a significant population that is on fixed income that we need to be able to deal with. But then you also have the people that, say, are coming from Seattle and have an expectation of services that may be in Seattle. So I think it's going to be, we're pretty aggressive of looking at grants and things like that we can get to. Healthcare is a big issue, and we're working on. We've had really early conversations with the Quinault Nation about possibly doing something, working with CMAR, working with the hospital district. But it's like anything, it's going to, we're in rural Washington, which is sometimes gets left behind, as you know, Lynnette. But we do a really good job of making our voices heard and making sure that we're not forgotten out here in Ocean Shores. So we're planning on really starting to survey our people that live in Ocean Shores of what their thoughts are. And I think that as we do our roadshow, when we're out there talking to people, we're always taking notes, and if you just look at my Facebook page, of all the stuff that we've got posted, and it's all coming from the citizens' input to us. So I don't have an easy answer. It's going to take a lot of stuff, but it is different because we have people that are moving in that are not reflective of the people that are living here now.
You're right. And there's always going to be a bit of a rub there. Yesterday, I was scrolling through many of our community Facebook pages, and I saw the resurgence of the Westport Ocean Shores Ferry discussion. And I watched the back and forth, and there's urban legend in that discussion. There's assumptions and beliefs. Can you set the record straight here today about what the status of that is, or what may make it happen or not happen, or anything like that?
Okay, I'll do the best that I can.
You tell me, tell us what the reality is, because of course, if we believe social media, there's all sorts of theories.
So the reality was that Ocean Shores, Mayor Dingler was a big lead on that, as well as Rob Bearden, mayor of Westport. And so they were working on it, and the transit was involved with it because obviously they do transit. And what happened was the transit wanted to pretty much kind of create a own division, which was going to cost a lot of money. And at that time, there was no money to be put in. There's no commitment from the city of Ocean Shores or the city of city of Westport to fund something that wasn't probably going to happen. So there was a vote that the Grace Harbor Transportation decided they didn't want to support it. At that time, Mayor Dingler and Mayor Bearden felt that it was important to move forward, said that they were going to continue to move forward. And of course, this was before COVID. and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and then everything, like, that got put to the side. So it's just been hanging out there. I believe somewhere John Shaw is kind of, he's always, in the past, he was always kind of a leader of it, but he has got things going again. And I know that I've got a meeting to set up with them about where's the City of Ocean Shores commitment. My understanding that Rob Bearden is in support of it. The Quinault Nation would like to be part of it because obviously they own a marina on our side. And so I think it's coming there, but it's like one of those things that if we get it going, it's going to take a long time. So there's a lot of interest in it. Nothing that's going to happen this summer, but we're in the conversation of what we can do. And I think personally would be great way back when I took that ferry ride over it, and it's really, you just get on a boat. I mean, it's not like a passenger ferry or anything, but no, I'm excited about having the conversation. And as far as I'm concerned, it's alive and well, but it's not something that is going to happen. And then also part of the ferry could be part of the discussion of whatever we're going to do with the jetty repair.
Right. So it's an active conversation.
Yeah, and it actually took a strange turn with the Biden infrastructure bill, because suddenly there was quite a bit of money that was set aside for small to rural ferry routes that wasn't available before. Now, I think we had $250,000. I can't remember, Martin, this was before I came here, Mayor, from the legislature that was going to have us do a study, or at least like look into the possibilities of that ferry, because obviously all those problems are interconnected. It's the fact, the tribe owns the marina, which is the most logical place for it to land. The jetty is in the process of being, repaired. And then COVID hit, which sort of just, shut everything down. But the fact that a line item was actually allocated in the Biden bill that allows for small ferries and allows, we don't know how that's going to pass through the states yet, or how that's going to work with Washington's WASDOT for transportation, but it throws the lifeline out to making it a more realistic possibility.
Great. I appreciate you guys just, setting the record straight, because again, it's very easy for past, history to get intertwined with present and so on. So I do want to do closing remarks just real quick. John, you talked about the crosswalk on Point Brown. Did you specify a location? I don't know if I heard that.
Scott did.
Scott did.
Yeah. So south of Shoal Street, we're trying to put it adjacent sort of Playtime Family Fun, which is what the vision was initially for it. I don't think we have the sign off on the property owners yet, either from Mr. Doolittle or the other side, but we're waiting for the design phase to come back before that happens. But
great. And then will Skookumchuck Park become an off-leash dog park?
Do not know. That would be a question to our Parks Board. I know that they're looking at options, and I think at the next council meeting, they're bringing a presentation. I don't know if dog parks are in there, but that would be, I'll take the lead from the Parks Board.
Okay. We're at closing, and there was a question about increase in crime. And I don't know if your local PD gives a report on crime, and maybe if that's.
They do. Scott, do you have because I know the crime is down.
Yes, yeah, crime is generally down. Every now and then you'll get these sort of bumps at different times of years. And like, for example, this is normally the time of year where like burglaries start to hit highs, although they've been much lower than in our history, because everyone knows that residents are away, but fewer residents are away. But if people want to see those crime statistics, they are available. They're on the website. You can go to the website, go to city documents, and you'll go to police reports. And under police reports, it lists all the major types of crimes by year and by month, because they keep track on a monthly basis. So if you want to do like long-term comparisons, look at their various things, you can always do that. But yeah, in general, crime is down within the city from what it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Great, thanks. And thanks for sharing where that resource is. So you guys have been great today. It's always good chatting with you. To the folks in the audience, next month on March 22nd, we have lunch with the mayors. It will be in person. So Jon Martin will be present again with his counterparts across the county, and we'll be doing a panel with all the mayors. And so that event is at the Rotary Log Pavilion in Aberdeen. But folks, it might be the first event that I get to do with Greater Grays Harbor, short of the candidate forum that I did in Ocean Shores, which I certainly appreciate. But it's on our website. You can sign up, especially if you have broad interest across the county, how Westport and Ocean Shores work together. Super relevant question to come to the event and talk about. So please sign up. Again, it's live on our website. Please use that online calendar, Ocean Shores folks, to promote your events in your community. Members, post jobs, post your news. You can post news and you can post coupons. There is a store in town that promoted one of their wine Wednesdays, more affordable wine on Wednesdays only. So please take advantage of those tools out there. It can only help the small businesses out there with year-round attraction. With that, have a good afternoon, and I hope to see you on March 22nd, if not sooner. Take care.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.